Hello and welcome into the Sorare Data Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined today by Sean Newsham, psufans2, to talk some Prem. And I will say that after last week's show, where we did a Challenger Gallery for 1,500 euros, we had a bunch of feedback like, hey, can you do Champ? And I said it to Sean, like, we should do Champ. And he was like, yeah, what we really should do is like the individual leagues first. Prem, La Liga, Bundesliga, and then, we'll get to champion at some point. And he was like, the biggest problem is it's going to cost like at least double. And so we're going to get into that today. Sean, do you still think it costs double?
What do you mean? Like how it might double or triple? Yeah, probably to like get like we did the best cards period last week. So like to do like the best cards period. Yeah, I would assume it's going to cost double.
I'd say we had like 5 of the best cards.
Yeah, and then we had like good cards that were like backups.
So we're going to try to do it, and then we're going to basically show what we actually want to buy. How about that? We'll do it that way. Thanks everyone for coming in. Anyon said podium, and I bet Hudson-Odoi will be in there. I would guess that Sean would not have Callum Hudson-Odoi in his gallery of Premier League players he would want, as opposed to the ones that he would want if he was being restricted to $1,500.
I already have him in my gallery.
Ooh, did you buy him? Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
I have him.
What percentage of cards do you own that you think you would have actually bought? Or, I mean, sorry, how many rewards have you won that you think you would have actually bought?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sure there's like a chunk, but you also like, no, I'm not like just buying like every random pile of garbage I win. But like, are you talking about like of like the tier ones? How many of them would I've actually wanted to buy or bought?
Sure.
Yeah, let's say like a quarter or a third, probably.
Oh, that's a lot higher than I thought.
But yeah, but like, I'm not. How many of the tier 5s would I have bought? 0.
Well, yeah, 0.
Yeah, like, those I'm not buying.
That's fair. That's fair. Hoodwink on the podium, maybe a first one. I don't know. First one here. You're a Hoodwink's a standard contender podium guy anyway. So, and Toby joining Anyon and Hoodwink. So congratulations to you 3. Bob Franklin, what's up? Stefan AAC said if we had done this show 2 weeks ago, Sean, Rodri would have been the entire budget, but now he's only half.
He's still more than half, but is he? Probably less.
It's working in our favor at least. Matty Boy, what's up? Martin, Phil, are any of these players better than Cecilia? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Certainly for Prem competitions. Kev, what's up? Will to win. Way to be. Apocalypto, always like that. Harry Trades in the house. Pico player 1 minute till the Lairdinho shout, but it seems like it was already there. Jamie, 1,673,620 first time listener, first time message. What's up, guys? Jamie, way to be. Welcome in. Braden, what's up? Simon, watching live virgin. Wow. I've never heard that phrase before, but that is very descriptive. David, what's up? Kai, Ricomon, Quinny. Hussein says Madueke has to be there with a Wolves stack. Did you see somebody shared it into Discord. I don't know if you were in there, about how he said something on Instagram basically that like Wolverhampton was a horrible place or something like that.
And I also saw Chelsea scored 6 on the weekend and like Mudryk barely cracked like 20, which is like
a weird team. Yeah. Pete, yeah, sorry, we're noon start. But you are ready. Here you are.
So, Peter, when am I getting the article on Essence? I need to know.
It's coming. It's coming.
I need to know when to craft my unique Essence. I don't know what to do with that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Raul, Jack P, Steve, Fabian, Investor Dirk, Hinana, Genesis, what's up? Ooh, Agent Cooper, if Dwight McNeil isn't mentioned, then I'm not liking the video. His score in a 4-0 thrumping is legendary, if you ask me. Laird is always backed him, he knows. I actually won Dwight McNeil, but I would have won. I bought a limited Dwight McNeil.
Well, I also wanted Dwight McNeil at some point, but it was a limited, not a rare.
Not everybody can win rare Dwight McNeil, Sean.
It's true. Very true.
I will say, and I don't want to stick up for Everton at all, but their scores were surprisingly good for some players, despite losing 4-0. Like Mikolenko had like 15 AA with the -12 from goals conceded. And obviously, McNeil just McNeiled his way to 70. Peter said by Friday, your Essence article will be available.
That doesn't help. I need it by tomorrow, so I know what to do with my Essence tomorrow.
Why do you need to do it tomorrow?
Well, I mean, I need to do it by Thursday so I can use those cards on Friday. You never know what you could win, Laird. I could win an Mbappe.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb on this one.
But I could, Laird. And that's the key.
You could. You absolutely could. Did they not sell that one already?
Oh, I actually can't win an Mbappe. I don't have any unique essence, and I was more talking the other areas. I'm getting like 30 boxes, Laird.
Yeah.
I got some essence coming. I think last week I was able to I think I was able to get 12 cards on essence.
Yeah, you're just Mr. Jam it in the factory and let's go.
Yeah, my opinion changed from original, and I feel pretty good about it. Especially like I saw Surface crafted a 250 and got a steaming pile of shit. I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
You got one good card, and you're just like, yep, this is what we should do.
I got an extra 13 piles of shit. Then you got one. Yeah, I'll take that.
Anyway, we're here to talk about the Prem. Sean, $1,500 for a rare gallery, which I'm thinking. I think last week we did 2 lineups, right? We didn't even get to a third.
No, we did like 2 plus a player or something.
When I give you a financial limit on doing this, are there any players where you're like, oh, we should absolutely have this guy regardless of how much he costs?
I mean, the issue is you can't. Like in the Challenger one, I could get Veerman. I could make Veerman happen because of his price, and I think that was warranted. I don't think you can make that happen on $1,500 in a Prem lineup. Like, it's just, I don't think it's reasonable.
I guess the question is, who is that Veerman that you feel like you should have? Like, is it Rodri?
It's Rodri for sure. But like the Rodri takes up 65-70% of the budget at least.
I have no bearing on what a Rodri.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably around somewhere between $1,000 to $1,200.
$970.
Yeah,
his last sale.
So I mean, that's 2/3 of your budget. Like it's just not. You literally can't do it. With Veerman, I could do it and still get all the best players. With Rodri, I like literally can't even do it. It's not even possible because like cheapest goalie is going to be probably a couple hundred. I'm guessing.
I would guess that too. Let's see. Who are our similar players to Rodri in the Prem? Bruno. Oh, and Bernardo Silva.
I mean, Bruno's a great card. Again, like if you're putting me on a budget, that's going to be a hard card to get also.
Somehow I moved to, oh, what the hell? Let's see if that works. So yeah. So then do you start at goalie just to see where you can go from there?
Well, I mean, I think you need to get a bearing on goalie to see how much it's going to cost because like you at least have to have a goalie.
I think having a goalie is a good idea.
Yeah, like you're going to have a goalie. So like getting a bearing of like what it's going to realistically cost is a good option.
And are you in the whole like you have to have Raya or?
No, I don't give a shit about that. I'd rather like Pickford's fine.
Okay.
I mean, you got to have someone that's going to start like Pickford, Nick Pope. I don't know.
Let's start with them.
But like they might not be the cheapest.
They're not the cheapest. No. Why am I still showing in? There we go. I'm guessing that we didn't put like a ton of emphasis.
I into something once. I'll be right back.
Sure. So saying like we didn't put a ton of emphasis on like where to use the classic cards last week. Obviously, like the Veerman one took a lot of like the big price down because he was so much more expensive from an in-season perspective. But ultimately, it'll be interesting to, like when we go into it, whether the cheaper cards are actually goalies, or because it does seem like the prices for in-season goalies versus classic goalies, like the same player, isn't that great. Like looking here at Nick Pope, like the last auction for his new season card was $394 and the classic's $325. And so it's kind of back to what we were talking about last week, that if the prices are not that far, then you should probably just go for it. The problem is that like, so we said, so even if Pope is, let's say realistically it's 400. And what is Pickford? Probably more. Let's see. Last Pickford, 400. So you're looking at $800 for your 2 goalies. And now, so half of your money is going just to your goalies, but you have to have one. And like, ultimately the problem is that for the Prem, there are only 20 goalies to choose from. And so you need to have, if you're going to have 2 lineups, you have to have 2 of them.
All right, I'm back. What did we find was the cheapest price here on goalies?
I didn't go cheapest, but I was just showing that basically Pope and Pickford are $800.
Yeah, for 2 of them, which is not, I mean, yeah. So yeah, as I'm looking this up, so one of my wife's toxic traits, which she has many of, obviously, is the inability to throw stuff in the garbage. So, like, let's say I'm sitting here at the desk, and like, let's say this is the garbage, like I can reach it from where I'm sitting, and this is the counter. She'll like have a paper towel and then throw it right here, not in the garbage. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, the garbage is equal distance from you just leaving it on the counter and me having to throw it away than the garbage. And it like blows my mind. And then the dog gets it and starts ripping up a paper towel to shreds. And I'm just sitting there baffled.
I thought that was going to end up being like an analogy to getting rid of one of these goalies, but it wasn't.
No. This was just one of my wife's toxic traits.
Somebody shouted out, where was it? Anion said Mark Flecken. Flecken's basically half the price.
Yeah, Flecken's fine. I mean, from the budget perspective, like you at least want someone that's not going to be benched, and that's probably all you care about. Enrico, man, my wife deserves this one. She isn't home to defend herself, but this is definitely one that she deserves that stray for. So like options, I think, are probably Flecken. I don't think he's not going to get benched.
Yeah, Agent Cooper said sells, but I think he is likely to be benched, which is why he's twice or half the price of Flecken. Toby shouted out Bernd Leno, which I think is a decent
shout. Reasonable one. That's probably it. Like, that's it.
I do like this idea, Leno and Jedi.
That's reasonable. No issues with that. Like, I think that's reasonable. But like, so like that's kind of what you're looking at is like Flecken, like maybe Flecken Pinnock or something. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's not super duper fancy, but hey. So there you go. There's some goalie options. So like now we're going to the midfielders, and you're gonna get like.
I think the biggest issue is you're basically not able to get a real smasher.
Well, here's the thing. I think we need to go to forward. So back to your previous question, the answer is probably yes. There is probably a player you need to have. It probably is the forward, and it's probably like you probably need to have a son because he's too cheap. And like I think you realistically like need to have a son. I think it makes way too much sense to have him. Like, that's probably too cheap. And like you can buy a classic card for that.
I was gonna say that feels like a classic.
Yeah, like it's probably your classic, but like it's just he's a lot better than other people. Like, I'm not gonna pay double the price for Holland, who's a worse player than him, for example. Like, so I think like him, Anthony Gordon, something like that, like, is probably necessary. I think McNeil's a great shout as like a backup option. So like maybe you're gonna be able to make like 2 teams. They're just not gonna be the best 2 teams. But so like so like you have like him, like throw on a McNeil. I think Hudson-Odoi makes sense, as talked about. Like that sort of group, I think makes sense to me of like who you probably are gonna want. Is Wissa staying at Brentford?
I have no idea.
I mean, I don't pay enough attention to Prem rumors, so you can't go after Garnacho because he's literally not even a starter at the moment. So I don't think that's a realistic option. Palmer's not showing as a forward on Prem right now for who's asking on Cole Palmer.
I can't imagine he's affordable enough.
No, he's going to be like triple the price of Son.
Like he's $866.
Yeah. And you can't buy an old season because the old season's not a forward.
It's a midfield,
right? Need to buy, same with Saka. Like they're both pretty similar players. I would throw Whistle on there because you have the makings of a Brentford stack. So that probably makes some sense to throw on there. And he scores pretty well.
He does. You like him more than Burmo, who everybody pronounces as Embuemo?
Is Embuemo on Brentford too? If so, yeah, he's good too. You can put both of them on. Maybe you ending up with a Brentford stack. Like maybe this is sort of like what happens.
It's Burmo, by the way, despite there being no R's.
Yeah, I don't care what it is. I think it's Embuemo.
It's not. But
it's Embuemo.
It's Burmo.
Yeah, I'm not calling him that.
They did like he was on like the Premier League player name pronunciation video.
That's good for him. Yeah, I'm gonna call him Buemo or Embuemo, either or. I don't care enough to correctly call that. So like that seems like a reasonable forward list. So like then you go to the midfield and you get, I don't know, some mediocre dudes.
Hold on, I'm trying to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right.
I mean, you're gonna get rid of some of the forwards.
I'm gonna make Pete feel bad, but I went back to my Google sheet here.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get rid of some forwards. So so like midfielders, like I don't know, Caicedo is relatively cheap. I'm not necessarily sure that I want Caicedo, but
everybody loves Gibbs White.
Like, I mean, he's fine.
I was going to say, I think he's basically what you end up with in this sort of exercise.
I mean, I wanted a Gibbs White as well recently. That was my rivals from the Euros win, Laird. Yeah,
that made it all worth it.
Yep, that was what I got. I'm supposed to get a jersey. I haven't got it yet. I'm supposed to get a reward from Chawny's league, and I never got that either. I'm just getting robbed out here, Laird.
For real?
Yeah, for real.
Sorry, just full.
No, I mean Gibbs White. Yeah, probably Gibbs White on the list. Kudus. I think Kudus is a good ad.
He was pretty cheap. I remember when Harry and I were doing like the 1 week.
Yeah, he feels like a good ad to me. I think this might be a good ad too, but like I don't know. I don't know if he has enough decisive actions, and that would be like Basuma.
You mean the guy that should be in Spurs stacks but isn't?
I don't think he should be in Spurs stacks. I think the optimal Spurs stack is Vicario, Porro, Romero, Madison, Son. I think that's the optimal Spurs stack.
I think it's the optimal one, yes.
Yeah,
I think Basuma is the top differential because everybody plays that one.
No, I think Mickey Van de Ven is.
I think people try that and they're wrong, but whatever.
Well,
you can't play. Well, I guess you'd take one of the defenders out.
Yeah, I would take Porro out and play Van de Ven.
Yeah.
So like that, I don't know. Like
Paqueta's another one that's always so cheap because everybody knows he's.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I don't know because of the whole gambling thing, but it's probably fine. Hoodwink asked about Matt O'Reilly if he'll get sets. It's possible. I'm probably not going to take the risk, but it's a reasonable possibility.
I just want people to appreciate that if Matt O'Reilly goes in and is like a phenomenal Prem player, it's a gigantic outlier.
Yeah, pretty much. You know who actually has looked really good the first 2 games of the season?
Who's that?
Do you know who the first 2? Like I'm talking. This guy's been like man of the match twice in the games I've watched. Very weird, Laird. Casemiro. He's been so good in the first 2 games for Man U, like so good. He's been like all over the field. He looks like not fat. I think we should add, Hussein just brought it up. I think we should add Emil Smith-Rowe because if you're going to do like a partial Fulham stack, like he could make sense too.
Yep. Ugh. Kind of person has 2 last names and no hyphen. Anyway.
Yeah, actually, Tobias brings up, and this is actually true too. Mainu's been really good as well, and his actual like AA has been much better than it was last year. Like he has like 60 AA in his first 2 games. When last year, like his last 2 games for Mainu, are 2 of his top like 3 games in 30 for Man United. He just has been way more active.
I mean, is he 5 times worth Bissouma?
No, that's why I said Bissouma.
Okay. Anyway, let me see. Trying to get what happened to Flecken. His price literally went from 267 to 209.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Sorry, I was just trying to get some prices into this horrible spreadsheet.
So there you go. I think that's a good pool of which we can build from. And I do think we might be able to get 2 teams out of this.
All right, let's
maybe.
Let me try to get some prices on some of these guys for our exercise here. So Flecken, where did he go? This was his, like literally went, this is 268.
I feel like you need to give me the spreadsheet because I feel like you're just too slow with it.
Oh, you can do it. I don't care.
Send me the spreadsheet. Yeah. Because I just feel like you're slow as shit.
You act like we're in a rush.
I mean, I feel like the chat would like someone not in their 50s to like handle spreadsheeting.
You really love old jokes.
I'm just like, call it how I see it, Laird.
Yeah, like I said,
you haven't posted the.
I had to change the.
Oh, you had to give me editability.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Well, at least I can do. I feel like I can multitask a bit better than you, anyways.
That's fine.
Like. So, anyways, like I think you're not going to be able to do it with.
Like this is $2,000 floor price, or basically floor prices of classic floor prices of these guys, but we also have more players, and like we have 14, which is probably what you should have for 2 lineups, but like
correct. The issue is so like the person you're going to have to give up with this is pretty clearly Son. I think if you get rid of Son, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's like a budget Prem side. Like it just get rid of Son. Like we don't even need to do the spreadsheet really. Like you just get rid of Son, and like you can imagine like in season's gonna be like 20-30% more. So like if we can see that we have the in season that's like
some of them are not remote.
Well, some of them are like 0% more. Like some of them are not more at all. Like
I was gonna say like the goalies are the same.
Yeah, the goalies are, which is weird. Which is really weird. Like I don't understand that one at all on the goalies. Like
it's been pretty consistent, like in every division too.
It has. I don't really understand it. Like the only guys who realistically should make sense to me to like be the most and not really be that much different would be like the Rodri types, like the super stud guy that like you're just gonna play. That's the guy that to me shouldn't have that much discrepancy, but like they tend to have a bigger discrepancy, so it's a little bit weird, honestly, on that. So like, I don't really understand that one, but hey, who knows? Can you fill out the rest of your stuff on the tab?
What do I have to fill out?
The rest of the players, in order for me to like get their numbers.
I don't know what that means.
You only like put like 6 guys on the spreadsheet in that area. I mean, unless you just want to use these guys, like that's fine too.
Oh, from the watch list?
Yeah, like I don't know what the guys are that you're going to use.
Sure.
Oh, I did
it. Riveting content.
Oh, Laird, making it difficult on us. But yeah, so like I mean, you're not really seeing tons of a difference on most of these, except for like Anthony Robinson. Jedi had a bit of a difference. I thought we didn't add Manu. You wanted to add Manu?
Do we? Well, I just wanted to see what the price was.
Yeah, I mean, we can add him. It's fine. It's not a big deal to add someone and then take them off later. Like,
right.
But Manu, you're for sure going to take off because he's just too expensive. It's not going to be realistic to keep Manu on the list because he's just not
that's fair.
Probably.
He does have like sort of a U23
tag
premium, I guess.
Yeah, he has a little bit of weirdness with him.
14. I'm missing 1. Of course.
So that makes sense.
Smith Rowe, Bissouma. Sorry, everyone who's listening to this. It's just brutal. Morgan Gibbs White, Burmo. Oh, Wiesa. Yeah, Wiesa.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just like it's not terrible. The guys you're putting in aren't terrible for the most part. Like you have guys that are at least like capable players, and I think it's reasonable to buy them from an in-season perspective and like get some quality out of them. Like you're gonna probably get some returns on some of these guys. The issue is, I think that there's just probably going to be a lot more return if you do a more upgraded roster and hashtag spend more money. Like I just think you're going to find that the better lineup is like double the price, but you're going to way more return more than double of the actual numbers on it is kind of what my view is on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's not as easy to just find an extra to like double your budget basically.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. So it's like maybe this is something that you like start out and you work your way towards the more advanced stack. Because the nice thing is, if you're only doing, let's say, 2 teams, you have room to grow into another one effectively. So like it gives you the ability to like start with this, and then you still will have upgraded cards because like as we've talked about, you always are going to want like excess cards. Like having excess cards is just typically going to be a positive adventure anyways. So if you end up having an excess amount and you start with like 12 cards, you want to get up to 20 probably anyways. So getting up to 20 will take you a little bit of time, but it gives you room to grow into these better cards as well. So like it is an option. I think that not having, especially with the captain being double the price, I think it kind of hurts you a little bit at the beginning because you're in a position where, or not double the price, but like when you get 1.5x, it's a bit difficult to not have a marquee card in that position that you really can rely on.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
All right, I'm done.
So, I mean, we're not remotely close for in season. Obviously, we can use like a classic in some of these. That Kudus difference is wild.
Yeah, I mean it's not always going to be accurate. I'm just using the one that was like the last one off at both, and then like the floor. So like the last Kudus in season that sold was 2 days ago, and it was at 233. And the floor right now is 130 for an old season. And there's an auction right now that's running that's 8 hours away that's at 188. And the floor to buy now off the market is 225. Also, you can probably get a little bit less than this anyways. Because like if I send like Basilbot is at listed at 225. If I send, I'm going to get a little bit less than 225, obviously.
Yeah.
So like there's going to be, you can get some off of this. Like typically I would imagine you can get 10 to 20% off if you're sending offers out.
That sounds, well, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, 10% is like reasonable. Like I think that's a non-outlier type of number.
Yeah. I will say that man.
No, I mean, I'm telling you what I'm doing right now off this list. I'm removing Mainu.
Yeah, let's just do that.
So just get rid of him. And I'm buying a classic Season Sun. And that gets you pretty close to in season.
Yeah, I was going to say. So it's, let me move it over here.
Yeah. So like you like just hypothetically say like I'm going to go you have Hudson Odoi on Brentford. Didn't even know that.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I thought he was on Forest, but
and so is Gibbs White. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
So Flecken, Pinnock.
As you fill this out, Kanana asked my thoughts on Classic. So my thoughts on Classic are that you're still going to be able to generate some rewards to some extent. It's just going to be a lot less. And the real thing that people are missing out on, I believe, when it comes to Classic is that Essence is a big part of your reward now. So if
people really don't get that.
What?
People really don't.
No, people really don't get it. And I'll tell you why people don't get it. They don't get it because it's really boring. Like winning Essence is just not exciting. But so like last week, I'll give the example. I had 30-ish boxes last week. It led to me being able to get 12 cards. So pretend instead of me getting Essence, I got like 12 more cards of varying variety. Now, I would imagine a chunk of them came from in-season. So like, let's say half of those 12 cards came from in-season, half came from Classic. So last game week, and again, like obviously my gallery is going to be different than everyone else's. So this is all going to be relative. So last game weekend, which is a bit flawed because some of my better cards are not there, I won 8 cards. They were all trash bags. Like I won 8 trash cans. But if you effectively guess that I was able to get 6 cards from Classic Season Essence, that means effectively I was able to win 12 to 14 cards last week, give or take. So it's not like terrible, but you have to view Essence as part of your reward. And I think that the issue with boxes, here's the issue with boxes. Laird, I think you'd agree I was very excited to open boxes before the current version. Would you agree?
Yes.
So like I really like boxes. The issue is they've taken out getting a card in them 100% of the time. So you are just getting flat Essence. It's really boring. They need to keep so in the past there was a 5% chance of getting a card. Maybe they need to reduce the Essence by 20% and maybe reduce the Essence by 20% and give away 1% worth of a card. So like if I open a box, I still have that super duper unlikely chance at getting a card, but it's still there. So like there's at least some upside with it. But yeah, I think a lot of people are just having issues because they don't view Essence as a reward because it's super boring and like you're not like, oh my god, I cranked out 20 Essence. But like when you think about it, 20 Essence is literally a card. Like if you get 20 Essence,
could be Mbappe.
That could be an Mbappe, which is like, but people just aren't viewing it like that. And to be fair, I understand why they're not viewing it like that to some extent. But so my thoughts on Classic is that obviously it's not amazing and you are going to struggle to win a lot of the time. However, I do think that there is still opportunities to win some cards there, and it's not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world is a great, yeah. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are the 2 lineups. I'm not sure how excited you are running these, but maybe they work.
Correct. So like looking at this, I'm not like, oh my god, this team is amazing. But yeah, so like for example, in season costs $19.04. Okay. I'm going to get a Sun Classic because it costs $400. I saved like $200. And then I'm going to buy like a Kudus Classic instead of an in season. That saves another $100. So all of a sudden I'm at like $1,600. Then like for Dwight McNeil, I'm going to offer like $65 instead of $73. Someone might accept. For Wissa, I'm going to offer like $52 on the secondary. So like, I'm going to be able to knock that down to around $1,500.
I'm not even sure we're that far away. Hold on, let's see.
No, I mean you're not in theory. Like it's a pretty reasonable situation. Major NFT said, isn't in season really the goal to get to ROI on the 1,500? Classic, you'll just be in the hole. So with Classic, I just would forget about like your Classic cards, for example, of like what you're expecting from an ROI perspective. But you basically have to look. I think that the game at this point is a seasonal game. You have to view it as a seasonal game with some like remnants in the future. Like if you buy a card, it will produce in the future just at a significant lower volume than what you'd expect out of the season. So like if I'm spending $1,500, I would want to, in theory, recoup my $1,500. And then everything I get after that is like a bonus on it. Now at the super rare level where you can play 3 cards or you can play 2 classic seasons, you get a lot more use out of that card longer term. Similarly with rare, but it's only 1 card. So like only the top cards are really getting that.
Yeah. I will say though that like this list here is $1,600. Like it's $100 more, and you have all in-season cards except for Kudus and Sun.
Correct. So like you're pretty close
not far away.
to what your budget was.
Yeah.
And you can easily knock off another $100 off of that budget. Now, do I think this is going to like just plow in rewards for me? No, but like you don't really need that much. If you can scrape like 20, $30 a week, like if you average, you basically have to average what? There's 36 game weeks. So how much do you have to average a game week to pay off $1,500?
I don't think you can. Well, I guess 36 left. Yeah. I guess that's right.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned, I think it was Vita before, Flecken plays City and Spurs away after the break.
That's the problem though with something like this, is like you're always going to have not the best cards, because like you're buying guys on teams that are not the best teams. They're not going to have good matchups frequently. But if you're in the lower divisions, you might not need to have the best lineup on a given week. Or the issue is,
Vita said, my issue is that when you're stuck with Son and Kudus as your single captain, meaning they're like the best players in the lineup.
Well,
and no depth to manage fixtures accordingly. Fulham are very good at home, but away they're terrible.
Again, this is your issue in general with these type of players. They're going to have a lot of
right
matchups. Like it just is what it is. Like doesn't
price
matter.
wise. This is what you end up
like obviously, like if I have another 5 guys that provide me flexibility in certain matchups, that is fantastic. But I also want those heavy hitters that are really good cards. Like I want that Rodri. Like it's really difficult. The issue is like midfielders in the Prem, you're going to need to put up 80, 90 points, or you're just like sacrificing at the midfield position. Because like there's just some heavy hitters in midfield that are just going to rip a lot of the time. Not every time, but a lot of the time. And it's difficult. Also, Rico Man brings up another point too. Like typically, goalies on not as great teams produce a lot of AA if they can avoid an error and if they can avoid giving up 3 goals. Last year, Pickford was the #1 goalie in the Prem effectively. Last time I checked, Everton sucks. And he produces pretty well. That said, like you're going to have some total dumpster fires because he's going to concede 3 or 4 goals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be difficult. Another thing I would like to say, and it goes against like obviously what we're doing today with building the Prem lineup. I think there's a lot of merit, instead of building a Prem lineup, to build like a Bundesliga lineup, because the biggest heavy hitters in the Bundesliga are typically a lot cheaper than the biggest heavy hitters in the Prem. And if your goal is to like buy the best cards and like get good ROI, and it might make more sense to focus on one of the other non-Prem leagues.
I would say that the Bundesliga and La Liga offer kind of different things, that it feels like the Bundesliga has like higher scores for cheaper. La Liga is like, they're not really that many like smasher scores anyway. Mm-hmm. And so you don't
the issue with the Liga is you pretty much just have to you have to plow in Madrid basically, or you don't, but like also
I was gonna say the first 2 weeks you definitely did not.
So here's the thing. Goalie, I would say every goalie on the platform doesn't matter except for maybe one, and that one might be Courtois. It's just like his AA is just so good. Typically, like his AA is really good and high probability to clean sheet. It's just like makes him a really good goalie option.
Yeah, I feel like they've had so many changes to
possibly
goalies. The stats are so hard. This is a funny comment because this is kind of what we were talking about before. KB said, just tuned in. I'd say 1,500 budget is ambitious for rare. I'd say it's the perfect budget to dominate limited with 3 insane lineups. And that's kind of where we were going to end up later, to be honest.
I think there's a lot of merit to running limited at this price point. At $1,500, I think limited may make more sense. I think you might want like $5K to go to rares.
$5K?
Yeah, probably.
I think a $1,500 limited gallery, would cost $5K in rare.
No, it probably costs more. But I'm saying like a rare gallery, I think $5K gives you enough ammo to. But that said, like I think that the guys we gave you are reasonable. The main issue with this approach is that you are likely not going to be in Division 1 when you pop off.
for these cards.
That's the problem. And that's like that. I don't like divisions. I'm not a division fan. I think divisions are pretty bad. Dan Casey said I've spent 5K to 7,500 to get 3 rare in season. What's your gallery, Dan? I'm just curious, so we can go like take a look at it. With
I would also guess that if you wanted Dan's gallery today, it's cheap.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot cheaper probably than what Dan may have paid.
That's what I mean.
Weeks ago. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I will say that
what it looks like.
I've seen multiple people talk about the fact that because the auctions have slowed down since they've sold a ton of cards, it's actually harder to get the cards you want.
What do you think we're at? Like on a prem? Like what do you think Sun is at? But without looking, what number do you think they've minted on Sun?
50?
I was gonna guess 45. I'm gonna go look. Let's see where we're at mint wise. Yeah, so the current mint, there's one on auction.
Nobody cares about mint numbers. It's how many. He has 35 new season cards.
38 right now is the mint number that's up right now.
Right. So no jersey mint and no 1-0. So he has 35.
So Dan says probably 10 to 20% cheaper. All right, Dan, what's the gallery? So I'm going to take a look at it. Pico said it's also not a squad that has no chance of podium, which is massive part of the EV calculations. You have no collection bonus on your card. Yeah, but so here's the issue. You're not going to have a collection bonus on cards like this anyways, because you don't have enough money to realistically get a collection bonus. Also, I just don't think a collection bonus matters as much when you're playing a combined Nottingham Forest Brentford stack. Like if they pop off, no one's going to have that line. You're fine. Like you can give up a couple % in collection bonus because other people aren't going to have the same line. When you're running an Arsenal stack and there's 10 people with the same lineup in Division 1, it's a lot more of a difficult situation, and you need the collection bonus.
Yeah, like collection bonus, not that it doesn't matter otherwise, but it matters the most when you run a 5-player stack from the same team.
Correct.
It's exactly what we saw this weekend with the Spurs stacks when everybody was complaining about the high scores. And I don't want to call out who it was, but somebody was complaining about their high score and that they didn't finish highly. And somebody who has in this chat said, if you just look, they have a 2% collection bonus, and other people ran the same stack with 5% collection bonuses. And that's why they lost. Like it's as simple as that. You're at a massive disadvantage if you run 5-player stacks from the same team without a collection bonus.
Yeah. Quinny said the blind spot collection bonus is mad. I disagree. I think that a lot of people think collection bonus is all that matters. But like if my guys
matters when you're running a 5-player stack.
What?
It matters when you run a 5-player stack.
Which is what you and I have said.
Yeah.
If you are running it matters in a 5-man stack, especially if the 5-man stack is the best teams. It is less impactful if you're running a 5-man stack of Everton, because there's not going to be very many Everton 5-man stacks. But it also, like, it's one of those things. Collection bonus matters. Quinny that is correct. It never doesn't matter. Correct. It always matters to some extent. You are always getting a small amount of points added by having an additional collection point. The issue is that number is probably somewhere between 10 to 15 points, maybe a little bit higher. And it does come into play. The issue is like, if you put up a massive smash with Brentford and Nottingham Forest stack, other people are not going to have it. So you're going to be up there because you are different anyways. So it does matter. It matters a lot more with stacking. People that are all about collection bonus are very likely incorrect based on believing that it's like the only thing that matters, because it's not.
Vita adds in here that it's very rare that a 5-player stack from the same team is actually the best strategy.
It's difficult to have 5 guys that are absolute smashers on individual teams. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is always typically what a lot of the time what I do is I split up. I haven't ran as many stacks recently. I've sort of split them up to some extent. Like my best lineups this weekend in Rare, I ran a PSV stack. The PSV stack was the 3 offensive guys, and then I had Rasmussen from Brøndby, and I had whatever goalie I had. I think I had Diego Costa or something. And like, so Benitez conceded. So like Benitez concedes, I'm at a completely different level than all of the other stacks that had PSV guys.
Yeah. And Biscagli was bad for Biscagli.
Yeah. And the boss was also not the boss. So like, but I typically at the rare and limited levels will like switch things up to some extent, or like try to have a little bit of a different player.
Mm-hmm. KB said the Bayern defense is shambolic. Never going to run that full stack again.
I put up like 480 points in Champ Super Rare with Kim and Jay. It was not ideal. I was like, yeah, that's not great. It was bad. I watched like half the game. It was ugly. It was like really ugly.
Matthew said, I think for a $1,500 budget, you could get 3 strong lineups, each in EPL La Liga and Bundesliga, that's limited, and win it back fairly quickly. I'm doing that, excuse me, and have a 70% ROI already.
You could be right. I don't check limited prices enough.
Vita said Man City is a good example of why a 5-man stack is not really important in the Premier League.
Yeah, he might be right. I mean, Rodri limited like $80.
Mm-hmm.
You could just buy an old season Rodri limited. So like if that's $80, you figure the whole team's probably costing like 300. And yeah, so yeah, you probably could spend $2 or $3 or 1,500 and buy 3 in seasons in those leagues and recoup it. I definitely think it's viable.
Given how big the first place prizes are, like in D1,
yeah,
in limited, it seems a lot more attractive than trying to I don't want to say nickel and dime, which isn't really fair when you're spending $1,500, but doing that for in rare.
Yeah. Also, again, collection bonus matters a lot more at limited level than it does at the rare level, and then at the super level and at the unique level.
KB said Palmer and Saka alone are 350, but if you have both, then like I think you could spend 350 and still get away with it.
Yeah.
It's 230.
There's just guys you can get that are like not probably that expensive.
I was gonna say, do you really need either of those if you can get Sun?
No,
are they that much better?
I mean, legit, you could buy 3 Suns.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know.
It's like a Sun limited is $100. Actually, that might be the same as Palmer. Yeah, it's about the same. Palmer's a little more.
Palmer, Saka, and Sun are all great cards. I do agree. Vita said that Palmer has more 100 potential. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with that.
Blue Tomato said you don't need collection bonus on limited if you're on a 1.5K budget because you mix players from different teams. Anyway.
It still matters because like at the top, there's going to be a lot of people that are a lot more closely together compared to what it will be like in others. And like, look, like when we are saying collection bonus doesn't matter, it always matters because it always adds points to your score.
Sure.
The difference is like, so typically, and I think you'll agree with this, it's very easy to get a collection bonus that is like 1 or 2%.
Yep.
Those are very easy. So like the difference from going from 2% to 5% is basically 3%. Let's say that your guys average 80 points apiece. So you basically are gaining 3% on every player at a max collection bonus from what like most people will typically have, which means that you're adding like 10 to 12 points tops. With
you'd say tops, like that's not a massive amount of points.
It is, but it's also not because like
no, that is a lot of points in the leaderboard, Sean.
It is, but it's also not.
What does that even mean?
Like it is a lot of points, but it's also going to be like 1% of your overall score. Like if your guys don't score good enough, it doesn't matter.
Well,
and also, all right. So Vita brings this up too. To go from 2% to 5%, you need to spend about 3 times as much, which makes it very suboptimal because you need to. Basically, the only way it matters is if you podium. That's the only way you like offset the difference of like what it is.
I don't think that's true at the limited level. Like I also don't think you're spending 3 times more because generally you're using the collection to increase your good cards, and so you're generally buying basically bad players on the team, and they're
like the bad players on like City and like Spurs and Arsenal. Like bad players are like still pretty expensive. Typically, you typically aren't finding just a bunch of turd bags at the top of the level. So like, for example, like this week, the guy in 4th in Premier League in season if he had like a full collection bonus, he wouldn't move up really. Like he would still be like third, fourth. Like he would go from fourth to fourth. Now the person in third would go from third to first. So like that's impactful. But like for you to go from like 14th to like 10th is not going to matter that much to offset what you spent on all those other cards probably.
Sorry, I was looking at the Premier League in season. Just saw so many names that I know.
So Fripp said low-key it may be pretty solid to buy up the bottom of the roster for City Chelsea guys and then cash in when they go on loan. So it's actually funny. I was talking, Pranksy DM'd me, I think, and he basically bought a Carl Hein unique because he's on Arsenal. So he bought the Arsenal unique to help his collection bonus. Well, Carl Hein took a loan this year to Valladolid. So now he has a starting goalie in the La Liga because of that, while getting his collection bonus.
That's bad?
No, it's good.
Oh, I was like,
no, I'm saying it's
negative here.
I'm saying like he bought it for collection purposes, but like yeah, so like if you bought Carl Hein for collection bonus purposes on Arsenal, like he then got a transfer. Plus he gets international duty for Estonia. So like so it's not a bad card.
He just can't open it.
No, I think he bought it last year. He bought 2023 Carl Hein. Yeah, he bought last season's Carl Hein.
Gotcha. I was saying he bought this season.
He paid 0.6 last year for Carl Hein for collection bonus purposes at the unique level, and now he's the starter for Valladolid. And I assume he could probably get more, but I have no idea.
Sorry to quickly break from the Premier League here, but Sorare just announced new MLS cards have landed.
Oh, Peck.
Painsel's finally got his.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about Painsel. I care about Peck. Did Peck have a card yet?
I don't know. I wasn't looking.
The only card that matters. Oh, he does. Peck has got a card. Let's go. My dude. Best player in the fucking MLS. I knew that actually because Painsel has a unique on the market.
Why not?
You got Fripp out here being excited that a dude who already has cards has cards.
He doesn't have Revs cards.
Who gives a shit?
Collectors.
I want the in-season. Woo!
Yeah, and Hector Herrera finally has in-season cards.
Oh, he didn't have an in-season card? Why? Was he? Oh, yeah, he had his injury and he was like in Spain or something in the preseason, so he probably missed pitcher days. Where's the one of Peck? The one of Peck is on auction. It ends in 3 hours.
Go get it.
I'll have to DM Haber and let him know. Peck's been so good.
I believe you. If there's one league I barely pay attention to, it is certainly Los Angeles or MLS.
Yeah. I just messaged Haber on that.
Anyway. There was a question before, Sean. Where is it? Basically, it was starting today. Here it is. Rob SAFC. If someone was to start fresh now, would you target in-season or classic?
In-season for sure. I think I've said this a few times, and I think we talked about it a little bit ago. I think you can invest in-season right now. You have to treat the platform with your investments currently, I think, as a what can I return in one season with them view, and buy that in season. So like if you think you can spend $5K and return $15K in season, do it if you have the funds to do so. And I think it's really viable. Like I think spending $15K or I think spending $5K in the Prem and getting 3 in-season Prem lineups and returning double that is very reasonable, because then you have those cards again long term. You can still use them to some extent, and you've recouped the money. It doesn't matter anyways because of what you've done. So I think there's a lot of merit to that, and I think you could definitely make that happen. So I think there's a lot of merit right now to buying in seasons, especially at the beginning of the seasons. It's really about a risk tolerance thing and figuring out how much you can do. I think after this season, people will have a lot more clear viewpoint of how much they could realistically spend and how much they can return, because they can look at, like, I don't know about everybody, but I know there's obviously some people out there that are like, I'm putting in this amount of money and we'll see what I return. You can then decide after the season of like, okay, I was able to invest 3K and returned 5. I'm going to do that again next year, except for I'm going to do like every league, because why wouldn't I? And then recoup what you're able to recoup from it.
I appreciate where you're going with that, but I feel like there's a very difference between like, I bought a bunch of Prem cards and I made money and I follow the Prem, and now next year it's like, oh yeah, let me buy into La Liga. I'll do the same thing. Like,
yeah, but you can. It's not like unreasonable. Dan said, I'm just hoping for something like 60% ROI. Yeah, the thing is, you don't need to get 100% ROI in theory to make it still be a good investment, because you do have the ability to use these cards longer term. I don't think expecting to make money is foolish. I definitely think there's a realistic expectation you can make money based on what they're giving out this year in season cards. I think what's foolish is to spend shitloads and be like, I'll be able to recoup it over the next 5 years. They just are giving away a lot. Like, if you spend $5,000 in Prem Rare, you need to win one time over the course of the season. Not even excluding like all the random times where you win like $200 or $500 or $25 that will add up as over the course of the season.
I think that you just need to win once is really dangerous advice, Sean.
It is dangerous advice, but I'm saying like you only need to win once as like a escape clause. You are going, if you are running 3 lineups every single week in like D1, D2 in the Prem, your average ROI. How many lineups were in D1 in Classic Prem competition this week? I'm going to look that up. Can you look up how much they're giving away in D1 in the Prem in Rare in a week? Because I'm going to look up how many players played D1 in season Prem, because I don't think it's very many.
You want to know the total amount of money they're giving away?
In Prem D1 Rare.
Like total or first place?
Total.
I'm not doing that. How do you even do that?
You kill me.
What am I going to do? Count it all?
Yeah, if you have to. If you can't find the number, I'll go count it later. There's 67 people that are in Prem in-season Rare 1. So now I'm going to go count how much money they're giving out in Prem in-season Rare 1. Because like you just need to win it once, as in like that's the escape clause. Like I can escape with that. Also, we're not even including essence here, which is a big part of the equation. All right. So in Prem in-season Rare 1, they are giving out 65, 75, 81, 85. Oh, shit. No, I wasn't doing that way. All right, let me restart. 5, 65, 7, 81, 89. I'm going to do rough math on it. 96, 11, 6. They're giving away like 13,000. Okay.
Yeah, it's 23 grand across the 4.
Yeah. So in D1, they're giving away 13,000. So each week, your in-season Rare lineup in D1 has, if it's an average lineup, obviously like an average lineup value is $194 in D1, give or take. So call it 200. D2 is going to be less, but like let's say you have 2 D1 teams and a D2 team. So like you probably have $500 in equity every week that it runs. So 36 times at $500 equity, it means you have $18,000 in equity over the course of the season if you have 2 D1 teams and a D2 team.
How many entries were you saying were in D1?
67.
Jesus. 67.
So like it's hard because like obviously like good lineups are worth more than not as good lineups, and there's divisions you're going to move up and down. You're not always going to be all that shit. So like this is all rough. Tobias said 67, it will increase. I don't know how much it increases to though. Like it doesn't really get to much more than like 100, right? Like I think at the end of last season it was like 100. Because it's something like that. They've already released so many of the cards. Like they've already released like half of the rares, I think.
67 and 31 cash. Jeez. Like 30, it plays down to 30th.
35th.
This coming weekend is 30th. I don't know why they would change it, but
no, this upcoming weekend is 35. I'm looking at it. In D1.
Yeah, is it not this right here? Prem.
You're in D2, dumbass.
Oh, sorry. There was a nicer way to say that.
That was an efficient way to say it.
So more people,
which is fine.
Yeah, more people in D1 despite many fewer.
Okay, so yeah, so Matthew said 61 in game week 1, 67 in game week 3. It will stall out at some point. So like even double, like call it double. That means like if I double it, which I think at the end of last season, because I remember we looked this up and I'm pretty sure the number was like 120. Do you remember like us looking this up? Because I vaguely remember on a show we looked up.
I never played it, so
So like let's say it doubles. So it goes from like 67 to like 125. It means at the end of the season, your valuation and your EV with the lineup's like $100 instead of $200. And like let's say your EV at the end of the season is 250 instead of 500. Well, so like all of a sudden, like let's say you have a 500 expected value today and you get to run it 36 times, but every week it drops some. You're still going to end up with like a $10,000 expected value if you do things correctly. Again, this only works if you're buying cards that can realistically maintain D1, D2 level and are like good. If you're having like a bunch of guys and you're playing like and you end up in D3, D4, because the issue is, here's the issue. If you smash and you have the best lineup on the site and you're in D3 and you win $300, that's the issue. You have to be higher. And again, Oreo brings, this doesn't include the essence you're winning. If I'm running 3 lineups and I'm doing 25% get essence every week, like I'm getting essence in every week too. So like
50
in top of, oh yeah, and in season's 50. Yeah. So like you're literally 50% chance of getting essence as well. So basically like 1.5 of your lineup. So let's say, I think I did the math on like one of them. Yeah. So Matthew just said that last year, the last game week of the season, there was 129 in that game week. Now, this year, I would expect it to be slightly less, maybe not. And the reason I'm saying that is because last year there was only Champ and Prem. Now there's Bundesliga and La Liga. So like more Prem cards in theory have to funnel to Champ as well. So like either way, 67.
Wait, why do they have to?
Because there's more cards needed in Champ because there's La Liga and Bundesliga cards that last year could only be played in Champ. Now they can be played in Bundesliga, which means there's a holes for more cards to be played in Champ based on them leaving. So like in theory, some cards from Prem will go there. Not a lot, like a lot of them will stay in Prem.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be that different, to be honest.
No, but even like, so
we're also getting more of the cards much earlier than we did last season.
But it doesn't matter because this is the last week of the season last year. So that doesn't matter.
I'm just saying we're going to get to the maximum number of cards that are going to be played earlier.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that doesn't matter. Like, you're saying the equity will change quicker, but it doesn't matter. Like we're doing the equity based on what it was today. Like the first number was just what it was today because we just used it off of this week's lineups.
Yeah, I'm just saying we're going to get to 129 much faster than we did last year. That's all.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't really matter.
Well, your equity goes down each game week when more people.
Correct. Yeah, that's already factored in. I'm saying like if the lowest it gets to is 129 people and double 67 is 134. So it's like it doesn't even quite get to double of what it is now. So like effectively, like you have $500 in equity today. At the end of the season, last game week, you'll have 250. Okay. Pretend it like cuts as the year goes. So like if you did 500 times 36, it's $18,000 in equity. Let's pretend you just cut off a third of that because of like reduced amount that will come throughout the season. You're at like 12,000. So like in theory, you could hypothetically put in 5,000, have an expected return of 12, excluding essence you win, which if you are winning essence at a rate that is average, so 1.5 times a week you win a box, and I think the average on the box is going to be like somewhere around 6 to 8.
It was 6, right?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, it depends because all the boxes have different essence amounts. but I think the average is somewhere in 6 to 8. So like that works perfectly. So basically every other game week, you will get 20 essence. So basically you're getting an additional 300 essence over the course of the season. I mean, I think I'm doing that wrong. You're getting an additional 360.
360. That's what I would. Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, 360 essence over the course of the season. So, like that also has to be factored in, but like that's a bit harder to factor in. So, anyways, like, do I think that you can expect to return your money? I wouldn't necessarily expect to fully return your money, but I do also think there is a realistic path where you can make money by investing into in-season all these in-season opportunities.
The outcomes are much easier to see.
Yes.
That's all. Like playing for cash just makes it much easier with like the variability of card values and winning cards in classic competitions. It's just much easier to.
Correct. I think there's a lot more merit. Yeah, it's a lot easier to see. It's also a lot easier to put in what you're doing.
Yeah. Matthew said, given that you're using Division 1 numbers, would this apply to the lower divisions, which are much more competitive? Which actually, let's get into the division conversation that we were going to have, that we started to have just before the show, where you basically said Division 2 is broken.
The Division 2 just stinks because like Division 2 is like harder to compete in than Division 1, but you have no jackpot. The issue is if you don't have a jackpot, you're just like kind of boned. So I'll give you guys a quick. So Division 1 that we gave you, there's your lineup in Division 1 in Prem in season this week was $200 ish. Let's see Division 2. So in Division 2, your prize pool is, let's see, 2,000, 2,500, 28, 3,000, 3,300, 3,700, 4,700, 5,500. So the rewards in Division 2 are 5,500. Okay, how many entries were in Division 2 this week?
In which one?
In Division 2. In Division 2 Rare, how many lives were there last game week? The one that's running right now. Let's see. I'm
not in any of these, so it's like
no, neither am I. I didn't buy any cards, but I can find this out. So I'm going to find out what the value is here.
Have you been tempted to jam into La Liga since they're paying out more cash than the places?
I've been tempted in general to buy into in-season stuff. The issue is like I don't have an unlimited amount of ETH to hashtag spend more money. So like I'm only able to do certain things, and the things that I've been doing are I've said this a couple times. To me, bolstering and making sure my classic is as strong as possible and as logical as possible makes the most sense for me right now, because otherwise I have so many stud cards that are just going to go to waste if I don't have other stuff. So like I'll give the example, like this week in like Bundesliga, I had like no forward at the super level. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go buy an Undav, because if I buy that, I can unlock all these good cards that otherwise are just not gonna be able to be used in an optimal way. So anyways, all right, there's 151 lineups in Division 2. So your equity on a lineup in Division 2 is $36. Your equity on a lineup in Division 1 in the Prem is $200. So if you are not playing in Division 1, it is a lot more detrimental, because your valuation on a lineup is just not as good. And it is not like it is easier to win in D2. D2 is still absurdly hard in comparison to D1. Example from this week, the winner of D2 would have finished in second by 0.1 points in D1. But the difference is like winning D2 like 3 times or 2.5 times, because it's just so much more. So like D2 is a very difficult division. It's really not tons less difficult in average than like Division 1 is. But there's a lot less rewards at the top end that you're going to win if you do well.
I mean, it's basically the solution to everybody complaining that playing in Division 1 wasn't worth it.
Correct. Playing in Division 1 now is worth it. The issue is that like it's just so dumpster fiery, because like as a smaller gallery, you're going to typically hit something like once in a long while. It's not going to happen often. In the past, if you hit, you were going to get rewarded for it. Now, if you hit, you're not going to get rewarded for it because you're likely in Division 3. And winning Division 3 would be like if you finished like 80th place in like Division 1. So it's just not as important. So like to me, I don't like rewarding that aspect. I think it's really detrimental to people with smaller galleries because it just means that like they not only have to hit, they have to hit well being in D1, which is just not realistic for them all the time to be there. Like if you run a Brentford stack, when Brentford pops off 5-0 at home against Ipswich, if you're not in Division 1, it doesn't really matter anyways because you're just not going to get the reward that you need to make it beneficial.
What was the top prize for D2?
1,300.
So that's basically like the equivalent to 4th in D1. I'm not sure that's that different.
That would be, yeah, you 4th.
Like in between 3rd and 4th.
3rd and 4th. But the issue is, so like, not even that. Like, let's say, like, and this is not unreasonable. Let's say that 3rd place in D2 would have finished 1st in D1. And all of a sudden, though, he's in D3, got $450. That's the equivalent of like 8th in D1. And like let's say like you just don't necessarily make it up.
450 is like more than, it's between 5th and 6th in Division 1.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure that the difference is all that.
It's big at the top. It's big at the top. If you win D2, but you would have won D1, or like let's say you get 3rd in D2 and you would have got 1st in D1, like it's a pretty large gap.
Yeah, I think that's because they don't want people not playing to get into D1. That's part of the game now. Like I understand that if you're trying to run these budget stacks, like the odds that you get into D1 are very hard.
Correct, but just like if you're not playing in D1, like doing anything is probably not profitable. Like doing anything is probably like not great.
I mean, the Division 2 top prize is literally, there are only 2 prizes.
So Tobias said managing divisions is a skill though. The issue is like they changed the field goal posts like and move them whenever they want. Like, oh hey guys, we're just gonna change this after the Prem season's over last year, and that's what they did. And they like changed it. I don't know. Like yes, it's a skill. Yes, it matters. It's also like not a skill. Like, oh, hey, I ate a DNP this week and I got relegated because of it. Like that's not as much of a skill some of the time.
I think, well, no, because like getting relegated out of Division 1 is much harder now than it was.
It is much better. The way that it is now is much better than the way that it was. The issue was the way that it was, they changed that goalpost after the season was over and you couldn't do anything about it. And you're like, oh, well now and they also like D2 was a lot better last year compared to D1. And D3 was a lot better compared to D1. They made so like they changed everything after it was done. And they're like, okay, this is what you're left with.
I'm saying like you had commented that you got relegated in the last week of the Prem.
Mm-hmm.
You would not have been relegated had they had they not moved the goal, or had they moved the goalpost earlier, you wouldn't have been relegated.
Correct.
Right?
Well, or if they were like where they were, I would have had all 3 lineups move back up last week, but none of them got to the top 12.5%. But they all got to the top 25.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, to make it easier or harder to get promoted, it is also harder to get relegated. And like
no, but I'm saying like they changed it after the season was over.
Yeah.
And like last year, like there was also merit to like getting relegated. Like getting relegated was a legit discussion point last year. And they got rid of that, which is good. That is good. But like I'm saying, like the goalposts just get moved occasionally. That's just what Sorare does.
I mean, we went into it knowing that that was a possibility.
That is true. That is valid.
The same way that we kind of went in with the idea that like if you didn't play, you were going to get relegated. And they're like, we're going to see. And then they didn't actually implement that. Mm-hmm. Which I think is a positive.
Yeah. No. The way that is all right. I just don't love divisions. I just think that you should get rewarded for if you have the best lineup, you get rewarded for it. Not like, oh, cool, I'm in D4. It doesn't matter.
So it's actually not even a massive change. You're really just looking for like the highest score to win the most money.
Yeah, I just to me, I just am like, I just don't like divisions. Like my person, like, do you know anyone that likes the divisions? Actually, asking chat, does anyone like divisions or do you not like divisions? Like, I'm just curious what people's view on it is. What's your thoughts, Laird?
I would guess more people like them than they don't.
You think more people like them? I've not talked to anyone that likes division. Basically, everyone I talk to hates them. But I'm curious, like, obviously I don't talk to everyone. I talk to a good range of people, but
I think it adds another element to the game that people enjoy.
Okay, we have a few not likes. We have someone that does like them. Dan says, I do like the divisions. I just wish the start of the season placements were fair. So that's actually another issue is like, there's a big negative on like, if you didn't already have cards, you just start so low. It takes so long to move up.
What do you mean by it's unnecessary complexity? Are they really that complex?
I think they are. I tend to agree with that.
I think one of the problems is that and goes back to what you were just saying. Who was that? About Dan Casey said about the placements that like the divisions take a while to like settle in, and we're only like 3 or 2 game weeks in, and so they're not settled, and so people feel like they've been wronged.
Well, that could be the case too. Is like because so at the beginning, right? Pranksy has as many D2 lineups in week 1 as he does D1 lineups. And he has as many D5 lineups as he does D2 lineups in the rare level, right? So, like, it takes a little bit of time before Pranksy is in D1 and everything. Like, I think, like, Challenger, like, I'll give Challenger to rare. Challenger, rare, I think 5 of my 6 lineups are in D1. But at the start of, like, the Bundesliga and the La Liga competitions, they weren't. Because that's not how it works. So it takes a while for the whale galleries to get out of D3 and D4 and D5.
Well, theoretically, it should take
4 or 5 weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks, like whatever. They got to work their way out.
But I think that's all. I mean, I think saying that everything will be okay in 4 weeks after they implement divisions on competitions they've never had is fine.
Well, Anion brings this up, and I do want to touch on this because this is the idea of it. And I just don't think the idea behind divisions is they want people with budget teams and like lower teams to be able to like do well and win. And Anion says, I dislike it because it feels like there's no point to building budget teams. I tend to agree because there's not tons of merit to being in like D3, D4, D5. And like if you have like cheap, not great teams, like being in D1, D2 isn't going to be realistic anyways. So it's kind of like building a budget team is about like hitting that one time. But like, if you're hitting that one time and you're just like in D4, it's just not great.
I think it's as simple as like if you want to build a budget team, you're going to have to admit that you're going to compete for budget prizes.
That's fair. That's reasonable.
Like it's reasonable, right? Like it's said out loud. It sounds like a real dick thing to say.
Yeah.
But like that's where the game is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're just not like overreacting. We're just like reacting to the early kind of division distribution of new competitions. And it's just that sometimes they just feel off.
Yeah. Tobias says budget galleries can still compete as long as you play the matchup. This is not true. This is a compete versus compete discussion point. Budget galleries can have their occasional success, but as a whole, they're not going to do well. Like this weekend, like everybody just ripped hundos. Like all the big dogs, like just ripped. Doesn't matter. Like your budget team just loses, no matter if they did well or had a good matchup. Like they just got wrecked probably this weekend for the most part because like the big dogs came to play.
So I was talking to somebody about how like the Prem scores were like really. Everybody was complaining that the Prem scores were really high. Do you think it's reasonable for me to think that the winner of Prem, like in season, should always have 500?
That doesn't matter. I think the week to week like score points don't matter as much, but like I don't think the week to week score points matter as much per se as like if you just aren't giving enough rewards. I don't think it's an issue at limited and rare. It becomes an issue at super rare level. Where there's just like, there are not many. If you put up a massive score, you're going to probably get a reward at the rare and limited level. It may not be a tier 0. It may be a lower end reward, but you'll get something. Whereas like in super rare division in unique division, like you could put up some monster scores and you just like are not going to get rewards because they just give out like 2 cards. So
in classic, you're talking about
in either class, they only pay out 3 spots in season too. Like you just have to put up monster scores.
Premier League is 4 for this weekend. 4 spots in cash.
What?
Super rare in season Prem is 4 prizes
for D1. So you need to put up so Shamrock had Areola, who had a clean sheet, Kilman, who had 100, Kudus, who had like 45, De Bruyne, captain, who had like 95, and Doku, he put up 500, does get $0 because it's too top heavy. The issue with rewards is in classic and in season. Classic is they just don't give out enough in the super and unique level because they can't, and they don't give out money to offset it. In the in-season issue is they just pay it too top heavy. If they flatten it out a little bit, it would be fine. Like if you're at unique level, they were giving like 80% of the rewards to first place. That's just absurd. Like one of the this weekend rewards was like 8,500 at unique, and they're giving out 5K to first. It's like 65% to first.
This weekend coming up, which is weird to say since it's Monday, super rare in season Division 1 Prem, 5K to first, 500 to fourth.
Yeah, but like it's not even about that. It's about like pay through 7th. Give like 6th 400, or give like 5th 400, give 6th and 7th 300 each. Then you're getting okay. So like you flatten it out a little bit. Like the person who wins isn't pissed they won 4K instead of 5, but the people who finished 5th, 6th, 7th have a lot more positive experience on their hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's about making as many people happy as possible. So Fripp said, did this happen on DFS sites too? Yes. So like what happened in DFS, and it's the same thing with Sorare, is they pay too top heavy. The issue is when you pay too top heavy, you end up with a lot more people having a lot more negative sentiment because the only person that's happy is the winner and everyone else is pissed off. And what happens is the run rate of which people go through is a lot lower. So like I'll give an example. Like let's say you have an in-season Prem lineup, and on average, you're going to finish in the top 4 once every 3 months, and you're going to win once every 3 years. You're not winning very much. You're not very excited because you just lose every week. Like every week for 3 months, you lose until that 1 week you finish 5th or you finish 4th and get $500. Now, let's say that your 5th through 7th rate is every 2 weeks. Okay, I'm getting stuff every 2 weeks. I'm pretty excited about this. And like your run rate is a lot like slower. So you are excited and like you're engaged and think like, oh, hey, I have this chance. Do you have that chance? No, not really. You're not going to hit it that frequently, but you at least like are incentivized and think that there is a chance that you can win because you are winning occasionally enough that you're feeling decent about yourself and you continue to play. Whereas what happens now, like what we've seen, and this goes for a lot of the unique level people, is people leave because they just are like, oh, I literally haven't won in 3 months. I'm dejected because I've not gotten a reward in 3 months. Whereas like if you give this guy some scraps here and there, they're going to be excited about it. They're going to be like, all right, there's a chance for me here.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I mean, it's probably just as drastic at the rare and limited level, but they obviously pay more spots than super rare. Like super rare and unique just looks so drastic when it's literally like
if you give all of your money to one person instead of percentages to 10 people, the odds of it coming back is a lot lower because that one person is the only person that matters. If they invest at all, that's great. But those other 9 people are dejected and are like, I'm done. Like, so I would consider Pranksy and Bambi to be the biggest like whales probably. How much ETH do you think they won this weekend? Pure ETH as of like last night. Yes.
I don't even think it in ETH anymore for prizes.
Okay. In dollars.
15 ETH?
Yeah. Just the two of them won about like 14 ETH. So like $45,000. I don't think it hurts them if they, instead of winning 45,000, they win 35,000. They should still win a shitload, but Joe Schmo should win $50. Andrew Laird should win $100. Fripp should win $100. Because in the situation where they win 45 and Andrew Laird wins 0 and Fripp wins 0 and Rico Man wins 0 and Oreo wins 0, or all those people are dejected. Pranksy's happy. All those people are dejected. In a situation where Pranksy wins 35,000 and Laird wins 100, Fripp wins 200, Oreo wins 300. Pranksy's still happy, but Laird's happy now. Fripp's happy now. Oreo's happy now. All these guys are happy, and they're like, hey, man, I got a chance. I'm like, I have a fight. And they like are like, cool, I'm going to do it. Whereas like, all right, if Laird gets $0 every week for 2 months, Laird's going to be like, this sucks. I haven't won anything in 2 months. Why am I playing this?
I'm curious if Pranksy is okay with that.
What? Like winning?
Not winning 45 and winning 30.
I'm pretty sure he's okay with that.
Yeah, I wonder, particularly at the unique and super rare level, that how much you're willing to put in, I think, is based on first place prize.
A lot of people have left. A lot of people have left unique level because they just can't justify it because of the way the prizes are. Like at every area. Which means
right. And I think a part of it is like because of Pranksy, because they know they have to outbid Pranksy.
It's not that they know they have to outbid Pranksy, it's that they know there's nothing to win because Pranksy's going to win it all.
That's my point. Is that correct. Is he willing to spend that much if the prizes were cut by 25%?
They would be willing to spend more to offset it.
That's fair.
Because I would play unique. I would consider playing like unique champion if I could justifiably be like, all right, I can return some ETH with this over the course of the season. I can't justify that anymore, so I'm not going to play. Like I've looked, like I know people that have left super or unique champion that are like had like 20 uniques. They're just like, I can't realistically ever get a prize. So like, what's the point of me playing this? Like, I'd rather take a massive hit, drop down to super rare, where at least I have a chance of getting a prize. Because like, at least there you have a shot at it, and it's a lot easier to like repair and fix things.
Right. That's fair.
It's the same argument. Like a lot of people, I mean, we know like Gator Guy literally is trying to leave super rare entirely. We know a lot of other people who have left super rare entirely. Haber left super rare. Like I know a lot of people.
Everything.
What?
Haber's leaving everything, it seems.
No, Haber's got his. No, he just is like, he's like, there's no reason to play super. It's terrible. He's like, so I'm going to go play rare Man United stack and have fun. I'm like, I don't blame you. So like a lot of people have dropped because it's super top heavy. And if you flatten it out a little bit, Will just said that Nep is leaving super. Nep's rich. Nep's way richer than you and I. And Nep's not playing super because the rewards in super are not good. And they're too top heavy. And this could go to rare too. Like instead of paying rare winner $4,000, pay them $3,000. You shouldn't be able to just pay off with one win your entire team. And the fact I can literally pay off the entire team at rare level is like wild. Limited's even worse. Limited, like you pay off the team like 3x with one win. You
think that's bad?
Yeah, you still pay it off with one win if it's 3,000 instead of 4,000 at like the rare level. I just think it needs to be flatter. It just needs to be a little flatter. Like you don't have to. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you don't have to cut it like in half. But like the unique level paying out like 10,000 and paying out 7 to first. What was it like? It was a couple weeks ago. Something was like at unique. They were paying out 10 grand, 7 to first, 3 to second. That was it. It's like, all right, pay 5 to first. 2 to second, 1 to third, 5. Like the flatter you make it, the more. I think what a lot of people on the platform goes for every level. A lot of people on the platform have a realistic expectation if they can compete at a reasonable rate. And if they're like, all right, I literally can't compete because Pranksy's just going to win everything, I'm not going to invest. If they're like, all right, I don't need to beat Pranksy, I need to get 6th. And if I get 6th at a reasonable rate, I'm paying off what I'm investing. Okay, I can do that. I can finish 6th. I just can't beat Pranksy on a reasonable basis.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I'm curious how much research they do into like finding out who actually likes top head, because like we have known from our DFS days
So-
that like top heavy payouts get people's attention, but it's not until they play that they realize how bad they are.
So like, look, again, people like top heavy. People are incentivized by top heavy. The difference between top heavy and still top heavy, but not as top heavy is you don't need to give out an absurd amount of a prize pool to first. You can give out a good amount of prize pool to first and still be reasonable. So it's not necessarily as much about like what everyone might want. Everyone wants just $1 million. Everyone wants $1 million first, and like it's just not going to happen. Like it's not realistic. But you need to understand like what is exciting to people, and then also what is good for the economy of the game. And that's why DFS has died to some extent, because they just top heavy the shit out of it. And then what would happen is like, oh, someone won $1 million and they don't want to invest another dollar in the game, and they pull it off. And okay, boom, boom, $1 million out of your ecosystem entirely because of that, instead of $500,000 and $500,000 still being in your ecosystem.
Would you rather flatter payouts overall or top score gets the top prize, regardless of division?
I'd rather flatter payouts. Top heavy payouts are very disruptive for mostly everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Top heavy payouts are
yeah.
Top heavy payouts are just not good in general.
Agreed. All right. On that would you rather, I think we're good to go. Thank you everybody for joining. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Do we do La Liga and Bundesliga next?
I think we need a break. Well, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. Oh, there we go. Threshold should come back. Let's go. Anyway, thank you to everybody. If you have any topics or leagues you want us to look at, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at Andrew M. Laird. Sean is at psufans2, but you don't have to tweet at him either. And yeah, let us know what you want to hear, and we'll get right on that. So thanks for coming. Good luck this week.